I'm Ashley O'Connor. On behalf of the BMIC at the University of Utah, we are here today to discuss eConsent in REDCap. eConsent is an electronic format that can be used to supplement or replace paper-based informed consent forms to provide information to a potential research participant. It can also be used to obtain documentation of informed consent. It's important to note that the consent process and investigator responsibilities remain the same regardless of the format used to obtain consent. We will discuss what an eConsent template is and why we use it, how the template works, how to configure projects with the template, eConsent versioning, and PDF snapshots. To access the REDCap project template library, you must do it from the New Project tab within REDCap. To use the template, you have to do so prior to creating a project. The template itself creates the project for you, and you will be able to edit the project to your project needs. To start, click New Project, give your project a title, and don't forget to include your CTSI ID number. If you do not have a CTSI ID, please complete a ProTrax application prior to going any further. From there, select a purpose and complete any PI or IRB information. Then you will be able to select Use a Template for the creation option. From the list, select either the simple or extensive eConsent REDCap template and create the project. You will await approval from REDCap administrators to create your project. You will receive an email once it has been approved. There are two acceptable template configurations. In-person consenting happens when the person obtaining consent and the person consenting are in the same physical room. Remote contactless consent happens when the person obtaining consent is not in the physical room with the person consenting, such as over the phone or sending the consent via email. For projects that need to comply with 21 CFR Part 11 for FDA-funded studies, only a single signature per form is permitted. In-person consenting has specific guidelines to comply with in order for REDCap to capture consent correctly and store a PDF copy in the repository using the eConsent framework. The person obtaining consent has to be in the same room as the participant. The consenting process needs to be completed in one single session. The eConsent survey should be opened for the participant in REDCap to review the consent and sign. The person obtaining consent, along with any LAR, interpreter, or witness, will sign immediately after the participant. The study coordinator is responsible for ensuring consent has been completed accurately. The final review and certification should be done by the participant. How to personalize the template in REDCap. You can add additional instruments to your project by building them from scratch, importing them from the library, or uploading them from a zip file. An instructional guide is linked in the first instrument to help you build your project to your study requirements. These instructions will help you understand where things need to go and what needs to be edited. The project can be edited and used as you would any other project, turning on arms, events, repeating instruments, using ASIs, etc. Remember to add any discrete consent fields to your consent instruments, such as consent to contact in the future. Delete instruments if you do not need them. For instance, if you are only including the pediatric population in your project, delete the adult instrument. If you are not using an LAR, interpreter, etc., delete these irrelevant instruments for your project. The eConsent framework is already set up for eConsent instruments. You will, however, need to add your consent form to the framework. You can also edit the versioning mechanism and name of the consent for tracking purposes. This will allow you to see this information in the file repository. The eConsent framework creates a PDF copy of the signed consent document in the file repository. This allows your team to download the PDF and send it to your participants, and also keep copies for auditing purposes. eConsent versioning. When a new version of your consent is approved by the IRB, you can update a new version in REDCap by adding a new consent form in the eConsent framework menu. Please note, even if your project is in production status, uploading a new consent form will go live immediately in the project without needing to enter draft mode. Adding the versioning in the eConsent framework settings allows you to track the versioning in the file repository so you can see which participants have completed which version of the consent document. If you were using the first version of the eConsent framework prior to the 2.0 upgrade, the fields and versioning settings are automatically mapped to the new eConsent framework. A new feature in eConsent 2.0 is the PDF snapshot feature. This allows you to take PDF snapshots of instruments with defined trigger logic, specific storage locations, and customized naming conventions. If you choose to create a snapshot and upload it to a secondary file upload field, such as a combined consent and documentation of informed consent form, it can then be added as an attachment to alerts and sent to users or the study team. If you have any further questions as you build your project, you can join our office hours every Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. Mountain Time. They are first come, first serve, and run through Zoom. The Zoom link will always be located on the front page of the REDCap website.